This is Dirshu Mishnah Berurah. Today we're going to be concluding the lengthy Siman Nun Gimel by learning Sif Chavav, as well beginning Siman Nun Dalid and learning the bulk of the Siman all the way through the Ramah, most of the Ramah in Sif Gimel. And we begin with Sif Chavav, in which the Mechaber teaches us Kahal Shenagu, a congregation that has the custom Lamanais al Nashim al Tzarchei Sibur Lizman. They appoint people for a time period. It's not a lifetime office, but rather there's a time that they appoint. And when the time comes, serving for 6 months, a year, 2 years, the time comes, they appoint someone else. Bein lechazin, bein lekupa shel tzedakah, bein l'shar minuyim, hatzich l'tzibur, anything else the tzibur needs. Bein she'nolim aleim zchar, bein she'ein olim, whether they get paid or not, will come them zman, even if they did not specify a time. Stamon kipei rusha, the stam is like they explained. So we begin here that if there's a tzibur that they have a custom that they don't appoint someone for life, and this probably is the way that most things work nowadays. Most rabbanim that are hired are not for life. It's for 1, 2, 5, 10 years, whatever the norm in that scenario is. Similarly, the president and the treasurer, etc., even if they do not specify, the stam goes like they normally do. Says Ramah, Yishmish Kazat Sheikh Sibar is followed mitoich sefer and yuchel Sibar. Sheikh Sibar should daven from a sefer that is designated to the Sibar Divadai Nichtav L'Shmai, and we'll see exactly what that means in a moment. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkot and Pei Vav, Hat Sibar Lizman, Ayim B'Chivas Chamda Shloimeh Simin Zayim B'Sachar Chazin Lizman Gimel Shan. The Chamda Shloimeh discusses the case where they hired a Chazin for 3 years. It's specifically where the minhag was that they removed them after 3 years. But nowadays, that we don't remove someone without any chashad. We should not remove him for no reason. Because we don't want to create chashad, a suspicion about someone. Ayin sham. Chasam Sefer writes similarly, unless they specify that after the time, then your time is up, and either side could retract. So Mishnah Berurah here is pointing out that it's not just that the designated appointment is for a time, but it's that it's understood, explained explicitly that after that time, either parties could retract. Because if not, then you run into an issue that it might look that there's a suspicion on the person that you're removing him and you're not continuing him at his post. And then we concluded with the halacha that they should use a sefer that's nichlav l'shmai, a sefer of the tzibur, because that's stamel nichlav l'shmai. Sivkot and Pei Zayin, says Mishnah Berurah, Pirish. Nichtav l'shem shamayim v'lo l'shem hisparus. It's written for the appropriate reasons. V'afilu masidah shal yachid hu b'chsav no yoiser me'atibur, even siddur for yachid is in a better print. Still, you should use the one of the tzibur because that's most generally written for the right reasons. But as far as manidfasim, now the Mishnah Berurah speaks to all of us. Everyone here is wondering what in the world the Ramah talking about. So says the Mishnah Berurah, printed Sfarim, ein chelik bein shal sibel yachid, there's no chelik. Kasav abrim megadim, nachlei nafli yachid is ba'am mitech hatzidr, and we end over here with a bit of chizik. What a great way for all those that are learning this after Yom Kippur, when this is, well, it has to be, because it's only being recorded after Yom Kippur. But the Pri Megadim is teaching us, well, maybe perhaps a beautiful Kabbalah we can grab onto. Says the Pri Megadim, it is nachlein, it is appropriate even for a yachid to daven from a siddur. Because you have the fear of the sibur when you daven inside. Is an interesting tidbit to impress your family and friends. Where does the word chazin come from? So the Mishnah Berurah ends off telling us that the Sheikh Sibur is called a chazin because he has to see how to read. And the word vayar, to see, is v'chazi in Aramaic. And now we begin Siman Nun Dalid, which is Dina Mashayachim Nishtabach. We're continuing, we're middle of Sukkot Zimra. In middle of Sukkot Zimra, the Siman Nun Gimel taught us all about who's the one that's supposed to now. After Sukkot Zimra, we appoint someone to be chazin. So who's going to be a chazin? Now we continue davening, we're up to Yishtabach. Says the Mechaber Seval Yishtabach Eina B'Seches B'Baruch. Yishtabach does not begin b'Baruch. We already learned this in the beginning of Simon and Gimel. Why now? If Yishayis Smuch LeBaruch Shamar, because Yishtabach is the bookend of Baruch Shamar Sheshteim Nitgenu Absuki de Zimra Zulaf Neim Zulach Reim. They're both misakin for Absuki de Zimra, one before Absuki de Zimra and one after. And explains the Mishnah Berurah Sivkot and Aleph Shisimucha Afal Gav the Psukim Apsikim Inei. Says Mishnah Berurah, 1 second. We know there's many psukim, tons of K'mitzvah Chavtelin that are between Baruch Shamar and Yishtabach. Loi have hefsek. That's not called hefsek. K'ma Baruch HaAchron Yishav Kriyishma, similar to Baruch HaAchron Kriyishma, Oishav Halel, Shegam Kinena Matchels B'Baruch, Me'aytaima, and there's a similar reason that Halel does not begin with Baruch for that reason. Continues the Mechaber Sif Beis. Ein la'anais amin achar melech muhulol batish b'chais, ela achar chayoy lamim, shesham busim habracha. Says that the Mechaber, and this of course was more relevant to the world without Sidurim, that you don't answer by melech muhulol batish b'chais, but rather after chayoy lamim. So explains the Mishnah Berurah what's going on over here. Batish b'chais, sifkat and beis. Zu hayim nuschasei. That was his nusach. Am nuschaseinu. What's our nusach? Kel melech kodo batish b'chais. Ratzalaymer. Shach shtima sheichsi b'yishtach baruch Hashem kel melech kodo batish b'chais. Lo yanish shamadam al zamin. Don't answer amin right there. Tekadil avisim bracha. We didn't finish the bracha. Asher begankin kelo idois v'chulu ad cheyo hilamim. So for all of us, it sounds simple because we know what the bracha is based on our Sidurim. So you have to wait to the end of the bracha to say amin. Benusach cheyo hilami yishkarsim b'tzirei chay v'yishkarsim b'pata chay. What is chay or chay or elamim? Whichever way you're going to say it, it's referring to two worlds, this and the next world. Shesham hu sifkat and gimel sarach ion im mutter az lahavsik lanas amin yishmei rabba ukedusha. Says Mishnah Berurah, it's a suffix whether you can answer amin yishmei rabba and kedusha ki maimer echad hu ala save. It's one maimer. Vayim b'chayadim klal heis if you gimel dem chol bracha ksara az lahavsik b'hamsa. Any short bracha, you're not allowed to be mafsik in the middle. So Mishnah Berurah is unsure whether if you are in middle of the bracha of Yishtabach, whether you're allowed to answer Amin Yishmei Rabba and Kedusha. We continue with Sif Gimel. Hamisaper, if someone talks between Yishtabach L'Yitzer, if someone talks between Yishtabach and the first bracha of Kriya Shema, Averi Biyadei V'chayzer La Merech Al Melchama. That's an Avera. And interesting, even though there's no wars, but teaches the Mechaber, this was an Avera that one would have to go back from the Melchama. Some say, for a tzarech of the tzibur, or to give tzedakah, you're allowed to be mafsik between the bracha of Yishtabach and the first bracha of Kriya Shema. So before we begin the Ramah, let's see some Mishnah Berurah over here. HaMesaper, Sivkot and Dalet. Ubiksavim kasav lember b'aseres meitshuva mizmar mimamakim krisicha Hashem. Whoever davens the chasvar, we just finished the aseres meitshuva, and we daven the mimamakim the sheramalo is between Yishtabach and the first bracha of Kriyishma, being Yishtabach liyoser v'sarach yid. So the Mishnah Berurah is not so happy. Perhaps this is the reason why Nusach Ashkenaz does not say that sheramalo is. And now we know what the shaila is, because you're at some level being mafsik between the bracha of Yishtabach and the first bracha of Kriyishma. And said the Mechaber that this is an Avera that you're chayzer me'archa Melchama explains Mishnah Berurah Sivkot and Hey. Ratzalayma, this means to say, the Pasuk teaches us that someone who's weak-hearted goes back from the war to his house. V'amru Chazal, and a Chacham have taught us, Hayari me'avir shebiyadu, he's afraid of the Averas in his hands, du gam kein b'chal Averu, this is called an Avera. Val Yorabba Kosav Shema Moshe Aklipos Mavatlin La Alois Hatfila. It blocks your tefillah from ascending into heaven. It says El Yorabba, explaining to us what is Psukei de Zimra. That there's these messes in heaven. There are these klipos that are not allowing our tefillah from ascending. And Psukei de Zimra, from the word of Rav Shab explains, to cut. You're being pisuk, you're cutting through all these klipos and allowing the tefillah to ascend into heaven. But then what happens when you talk? The tefillah comes back down. doesn't go up to heaven due to the Aveira. Be careful not to talk. But the Machaber taught us that perhaps some say if someone's coming to collect tzedakah, you could give then lives like tzedakah if got involved. Any mitzvah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, be careful. This is specifically between Yishtabach and the first bracha of Kriya Shema. Avol bein Kaddish u Baruch Hu, between Kaddish and Baruch Hu, or between the brachas of Kriya Shema and between the bracha of Kriya Shema, u Baruch Hu, or Yishab Psukim Zimra, Osir lahavzik afilu b'zachim ram l'var mitzvah, cannot be mavzik any reason. Klal b'sim non aleph sif. So an important reminder of the Mishnah Berurah that this is specifically between Yishtabach and Yitzha'ar, the potential heter to be mafsik for a seirich of a mitzvah. Because from Yishtabach to the first bracha of Kriya Shema is a different inyan. But between Kaddish and Baruch Hu, or between bracha of Kriya Shema and the brachas, one has to be careful not to be mafsik. And we continue today's shir with the Ramah. We're just going to begin the Ramah today. We're not going to conclude it. Haga. This is where the minhag came from, that is the time in davening, they give a bracha to the chayla, or they accept into a shul, that they could do a din between Yishavach and Yaitz. The chol zemik is zarech mitzvah, because it's a zarech mitzvah. As we've learned earlier in Sivan and Gimel. But now, when we go back to davening, the Sheikh Sibra say a few psukim, and then V'yomer Kaddish Aleim, as we learned, this was the reason why we learned back in the beginning of Sivan and Gimel that if the Sheikh Sibra finishes Sukkot Zimra before going up, he should wait and not say Yishtabach, so that he can say Yishtabach and then say Kaddish right after Yishtabach, as you always need a few psukim of Sukkot Zimra before that Kaddish. This is something that unfortunately you do see that people mess up, and the Ramah reminds us over here not to. So let's go. We're going to conclude today with these Mishnah Berurahs. It says Mishnah Berurah, sounds like if even just the Sheikh Sibra said these psukim, that's enough to say Kaddish. Mix up psukim is Zimra v'im lo amar psukim lo amar Kaddish. If not, he doesn't say Kaddish. Rak asla baruch hu b'lo Kaddish. You go straight to Baruch Hu and you lose out on the Kaddish. You never say Kaddish in a vacuum. A very important rule, we can take it to the debate. You never say Kaddish without psukim beforehand. Why? In those scenarios, says the Mishnah Berurah, Sheikh Sibur after Chazar Sashatz, Sheikh Sibur after the quiet Shonezri Yamayrav, yes, says Kaddish. Why? Shakadish Kayla Tfilah. Because there, the Kaddish is not in a vacuum. Because Kaddish goes on the Shmonaseh. Because Magen Avraham Shalchei Nagelu Loimar, priest says Shema, Baruch Hu Nikris Bi Shema, Klamam Sidim Zamachtas, Achig Ma'at Tfilah Shmonaseh B'Lachash. And this is where the minhag comes to say, Baruch Hu after Shmonaseh B'Lachash, Kedei Shemer HaKaddish Al Tfilas Shmonaseh. Avalachach Lo Shaykh Loimar Kaddish Am Loimar Techila, mixed as psukim, but afterwards it's not shaykh to say Kaddish if you didn't say some psukim. Vata Chadashim Mikarev Ba'u Shaparz Shmachar Kaddish Basra V'Amim Shenis Kaddish, says Mishnah Berurah. There are people that come along now and say Kaddish a second time. Ve'einai Nachal. What are you doing with another Kaddish? Mix say another some psukim, and then you can say Kaddish. And we conclude with Sivkat and Tess, in which the Ramah reminded us you only say Kaddish with some tehillah, with some praises. Sivkat and Tess below tehillah. Here it is. If you learn, this is where the minhag comes from. After you give a shir, Shabbal Peh, Yuchalimer, Kaddish Rabbanan. You're allowed to say Kaddish Rabbanan if you said a few psukim. Says Magen Avraham, you don't just get up and say Kaddish after a shir. You have to say something Dvar Agada. Kaddish Rabban. Ki Ikra Kaddish zen niskan Dvar Agada. Valkei. Mina Kol Yisrael Loimer Achad Bergei Avos Achad B'Memalikim HaMeimer Der V'Chanani Bin Akashya. So anyone who wondered where does it come from, someone just gets up and says, "Well, Mishnah V'Chanani Bin Akashya Oimer." Where does that come from? Says Mishnah Berurah. This is where the minhag comes from. This is Magen Avraham. You see that Mishnah, so that you have a Dvar Agada and then have the Kaddish. Well, if you're learning Mishnayos, you should end with that Maimer because that's a Maimer of Agada. So you can say the Kaddish. Afilu rak achar shalish psukim. After you read in the Torah, even 3 psukim, you say kaddish alim. Ve'yulemer kaddish alim kena yasar naj beis kinazim b'shas amirs psukim alimah. Reminds us the Mishnah Berurah, you only say kaddish if you have 10 Jews that were there for the psukim and the learning. K'moshe yizbar b'sim non hey Mishnah Berurah sevgadim beis. Va'afilu rak shnayim u'shloishim shlayim rak shnayim u'shloisha loim dim ma'imrim kaddish kisham asara. Even only 2 or 3 people learning, there's 10 people there, you can say Kaddish. The person saying the Kaddish does not necessarily have to be one that was learning. Even if he was just there, he comes in afterwards, he could say, Rav Chanani on Netzei Kaddish, I'll pick it up and we'll finish Siman on Dalid the next year.